Hi there, welcome to the latest edition of my 10-minute moan. Now, the subject for this 10-minute moan is the Scottish budget, where it's became apparent that the SNP have either been economical with the truth to the Scottish public or downright lied to the Scottish public about their figures in the budget. And I'll cover the story and then you can decide whether they've been a bit disingenuous or downright lied. Okay, so it goes back to claims made by the SNP during the budget speech, in which they claimed that health budget had went up by 1.3% and local government had went up, funding had went up by 6.2%. Now, the Institute for Fiscal Studies has released a report which shows these figures are incorrect. Now, the IFS, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, they are the UK's leading independent economics research institute. Our job is to analyse and inform economic and social policy decisions and help policymakers and those who hold them accountable to understand the impact of their choices we will have on individuals, households and businesses. So that's what they do. You know, their specialist subject is social policy, economics. Now, before we get anybody for the SNP cult telling you, that IFS, they're no impartial, they're Tories, they're governed by Westminster, all this bollocks that we always hear, retorts from SNP and their cult whenever they have any negative stories about them. I'd like to remind you, and I will put a link to it in the description so you can use it if you come up against any Nats claiming this. The SNP last year, on their own website, in about February 2023, used the IFS report from that set of budget accounts to show Scotland's tax and benefits are fairer than the rest of the UK. So the SNP, when it suits them, are quite happy to use the IFS figures to suggest they're nice people. So they cannot, and don't allow them to, use and claim the IFS are in some way incorrect as sharing bad people, when it's still on their website for a year ago, the SNP using IFS figures for their own benefit. So what's basically happened here is they've claimed that they increased health by 1.3%, when the true figure, they actually are putting 0.7% less into health than they did last year. And the local government's 6.2% claim of increase of funding is actually only 1.8%. Now, what they've done here, they've compared the starting point for last year and the starting point for this year. Now, what they've totally ignored is during the year, these bodies got top-ups during the fiscal year. So they've conveniently forgot about that. The amount of money invested in them increased over the course of the year because they put in, I think it was in the autumn, they put in some emergency extra funding. They've just ignored that and said, we've got these increases. If you look at the year in a whole and what they plan to give them this year, the figures are much different. And one increase actually is a true decrease and the other one is not halfway near. It's about a third of the promised increase. Now let me explain to you what they've done in real terms here. Let's say you've got a kid that you give £10 pocket money to every Monday, right? But last week you gave them another £5 because they were going to pictures on Tuesday, right? And it comes to the following Monday and you say to this kid, do you know what? I'm going to give you 20% more than I gave you last week, and giving them 12 quid and claiming that's a 20% reduction. Because you gave them £10 last Monday, you're giving them £12 this Monday, completely ignoring the £5 you gave them Tuesday or Wednesday to go to the movies. So you would actually be giving them less this week by giving them £12. Do you follow the logic there? It's exactly what the SNP have done in their budget. Just ignore it. Now, obviously, newspapers have ran this story and some of them have went to the Scottish Government for comment. Now, as opposed to doing their usual, where they just deny things, they've actually in turn confirmed the IFS findings, because ministers have, now, they've confirmed it and also told a lie, but I'll tell you what they said first. Ministers have provided real term increases in health when comparing the opening position of 2024-25 to the opening position of 23-24. In the next paragraph, they're going to tell us how it's Westminster's fault, which is just the default setting for them. And I'm not even going to bother reading out the nonsense that they came out with for why it's Westminster's fault, but it just is. So we have to accept that. So what they're actually telling more lies, they're doubled down. But at least they're talking about this opening position now. But they're adamant. Ministers have provided real term increases in health when comparing the opening position in 2024 and 2023. But IFS figures quite, and I'll it's some reading this, but I'll put their a link to their findings in the description for you. It quite clearly shows that health, the figure stated by the government is 1.3% and 0.7 of less money this year. So if you want to start talking nonsense and going on about opening positions, then feel free to do so. But you're just telling lies. It's just absolutely total bunkum. And as I said, the SNP can't just come out and tell us that, IFS is inaccurate, or their figures are, they're right wing, or they're Tories, or they're ran by Westminster. Because last year they were quite happy to put on their website in February 23 the IFS figures and show how they, in some way are praising the SNP. So you don't get to use it both ways. You can't ignore these people one day after agreeing with them and using them to back up your claims 12 months ago when it suited you. So this Shona Robison, she stood up and basically, and I see it as lying. That might be a wee bit disingenuous to her, but she's just, as a minimum, being economical with the truth. And it's yet another example of how much lack of respect, to be honest with you, these people have got for the Scottish public. That they didn't think for a minute anybody like you or I are clever enough to find this out. But unfortunately for them, people like the Institute for Fiscal Studies, that's what they do, that's their job. But again, there's a balance with politics. Every reaction causes a reaction, and which one is going to be the best for you? And when you go in grandstanding at the end of the year with your budget saying, oh, we're going to do this and we're putting more money into that, that gets the headlines. And the headlines created 2 months later, when the truth actually comes out, are a wee bit damning, but they'll have less impact than the plaudits you got and gave yourself 2 months ago. And this is a game that politicians use all the time. They make a decision and they weigh up the outcomes. Like, for an example, we'll just delete our WhatsApps. That's a bad story. But by not doing that, and the truth coming out would have been obviously worse than the impact of just saying we deleted WhatsApps and looking bad in the public eye. And it becomes damage limitation. And that's a term and a strategy used by a lot of PR people. And they say, right, okay, we need to manage this situation here. If we go out and tell the public that we're giving the health service less money in the budget, they'll kind of flip, right? So how can we manage that situation? And how they've managed that is they've told lies. They've told and compared the figures from the initial day one in 2023 money that went into the pot and totally ignored any additional money that went into the pot. And then they'll say, look, we're going to put this amount of money into the pot next year, and that's more than last year. And then know fine well that there's a chance that, a month or two down the line, somebody somewhere will stop and say, hold on a minute, that's not true. But you're then managing the situation because the ripples will be at that level when the bad news comes out, but you've took a bit more in plaudits when the good news came out, rather than take all bad news in day one, which would have seen the wheels fall off their budget. So, again, it's something I learned by default through my campaigning previously, 2012 to 15, that I'm not a PR expert, but I became aware of what happens in PR, spin, crisis management, and all these things. I'm not an expert on it. I'm just a guy who's got a reasonable amount of experience dealing with it, and inquisitive mind and going and learning things. So the SNP are, I would say, masters in the black arts. You could suggest they're stupid, but the people that you see in front giving the news are not the people that are creating the news. The people behind them, the SPADs, the PR people, people that manage the party, they're probably more intelligent than the MPs and the MSPs that go in front of the camera. And these people are not stupid. These people are very conniving, strategists and all that carry on, right? And they would have known fine well when they were putting this information out that there's a chance it will come back to bite them. But they knew that it's better taking that chance and the ripple that causes you 2 months down the line than standing up in front of the public in Holyrood 2 months ago and saying, we're cutting the budget to health. Because that's what they've done. They claimed a 1.3 increase. The reality was a 0.7 decrease in funding. That's facts. That's what the IFS say. That's gospel. Take that to the bank. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, there'll be some recommendations in the corner. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Join the comments for a bit of a blather. It's always good fun in there. But most importantly of all, have a great day. Bye now.